Hey William.
Hey there, how we doing?
I'm doing well. It's great to see you.
Thanks so much. Excited to be here.
Yes. As we begin, and I mean, just for the benefit of everyone who's queuing in, we've connected before, we've spoken before, we've talked about community, the work that you've been doing. But I would love for you to take us through what you've been doing in community and who's William. I mean, beyond
Yeah.
community management.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's a great place to start. If I could go pretty far back, but I'll go as the most current. The work that we do is we are an online consultancy. And what that means for the online community world is we support organizations to associations, enterprises, and mid-sized companies with their online community endeavors. And what we've discovered over the last few years is there's a commonality of people wanting and understanding online communities, but they just don't know, exactly where to start, what that looks like for them. So that's where liaison community comes in. We are the middle person for that, and we help guide them and direct them in the right path to, build and launch their online community.
Right, right. And you mentioned that you come in when people are looking to sort of start building a community. What does that look like? Like how does an organization or a creator know that they are ready to build a community?
Yeah. What does it look like when they're ready? So, usually, the few things that we like to look for, especially when we're meeting with clients, is do you have a need, right? Do you have a problem that you're solving for these people in this space? And then also, we like to make sure there's like proof of concept. So, do you already have like a group of people who are already asking these questions or already coming together? There's some type of commonality with those folks, and it's kind of like the ideal formula of getting things started. When there's folks who want to come together, and then with that they want to come together with a problem that they're all solving, it creates like that journey and that togetherness. So that's really what we seek in terms of how do we know when someone's ready to launch and build one of these spaces.
I'm also curious. So I mean, we've
Yeah.
seen this with a little bit of our work also, and some of my experience as well. That associations, for example, tend to be like a natural fit that lean towards membership and sort of deeper community engagement by default. For
Hmm.
some businesses, some organizations, it is not something which falls naturally into their part, but then they build
Right.
towards that, and they need to. I mean, so it's like a easier switch on for some, maybe a little
Sure.
difficult for the others.
More natural. Yeah.
Yeah, someone last week also asked me that is it something that also applies differently in terms of generations? Like, would you say that
Yeah.
millennials or Gen Z sort of association kind of work differently around this?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very cool point. I think so, especially with millennials. We grew up in between wherever you land is a digital landscape, right? Everything has been from social media. And I can go back a little bit further and show my age, but if you're familiar with like AOL chat, right, that was something that people were connecting, and forums honestly have always been around even since the early 2000s. But in terms of like millennials and, generations going forward, is the digital landscape is something that's very powerful, and social media has been the main tool for that. But I believe right now we're evolving, and that's where online communities come in as a space to really cultivate that organic connection with people and really have a safe space. Rather, there's not as many, what's the best way I could put it, is there's not many as many guardrails for social media, right? It's more so just a place where everyone can express themselves, which is great, for what it serves. But online community is a little bit more protected and intentional, I believe, for members and organizations that, want to build.
Right. And we were already leaning into social media.
Yeah.
That's always a little bit of a sticky point sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
I speak with many community managers, and many times what I hear from them is that sometimes an organization is wanting to build community, they are coming in with a very sort of clear mandate, very clear idea about it. But there is a little bit of confusion, and I mean, there is no right or wrong answer here. But
Sure.
what are your thoughts on building a community on social media? What is
Yeah.
sometimes the larger sort of market understanding of things,
Sure.
and how is that different from building community at a
Yeah,
deeper
I
level?
mean, yeah, of course, that's a great one. So I would say, in terms of social media, I believe it's a great way to, one, have proof of concept around whatever it is, right? So if it's something that's interest driven, or if it's something that is related to, pain points, a journey that people are on, if that's, pursuing some type of career and they don't know how to break into the certain market with that job, or if it's something around, music that people are just interested in. I believe that social media is a great way to have that proof of concept that this is a community built around this ideation of what it is. And then secondly, I've always said it's a great like doormat to, the additional things that you might offer beyond just, social media. So it's a great marketing tool, right? It's a great way to kind of cast your net, see what's out there, grab the attention of the folks who are, your ideal audience, and build from there. Because a lot of these, organizations, or, any business right now, if you're not on social media, then how are you connecting with that audience? And if you can't connect with the audience, therefore there is no community ultimately. So I would say, social media in the grand scheme of things plays a huge part in discovery, right? And connecting with the audience. And then if there is more there, then you could build an online community around that.
Right. Okay. So,
Yeah.
okay. So maybe we are looking at social media. I mean, so social media provides visibility and distribution,
Right.
and
Yep.
that is
Absolutely.
where you maybe perhaps get the first signals that
Yeah.
there is a community there to be built.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I believe it's just the first door to many, right? It's the first entry point. Like I said, I believe it brings people to your doormat. And community could be, looked upon as the actual door to go through to really go deeper with the brand, go deeper with the audience, and build the space for folks to be a part of.
Right. Okay. That's a very
Yeah.
interesting way to be looking at it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and why would a brand want to build a community? Is that, I mean, what's the
Yeah.
reason? Yeah.
This is these questions are hitting spot on because I've been putting a lot of thought around these as of late. So, there's things that I believe why, and then also there's reasons why brands would believe, and I believe those are more of the mission driven, bottom line type of um, thoughts that they have around it. But I'll give you mine. So the first one I would say is deeper connectivity, right? So, and what I mean by that is deeper connectivity with your audience. So, there's different stages in terms of like a member journey of like, customers, right? Someone who is interested in a brand and they want to go deeper into learning more about the brand, right? So that community could actually be that space where, they get more insights. They get to be the first to learn about a new product that's coming out from an organization or a company. They are the ones actually within the online community space that could add some input to some of those products or services that the organization focuses on. And what that does is it's beneficial in a lot of ways. And I'll go into the other half of this is for organization why it would be appealing for online community spaces because one, they could save a lot of dollars, right? Because what they could do is have that online community as an area where they do a lot of testing for maybe a new marketing campaign or maybe testing around maybe a new product, right? And what they could do is put that in front of their online community as their stakeholders and say, hey, give us your thoughts, give us your feelings on this new product. Should we roll this out? Should we roll this back necessarily? And rather than an organization putting a lot of money out there on something that they might have, a hunch on that might work, they can actually put it in front of that online community, their deeper stakeholders, and really get some feedback on it before they put it out there to the world, right? So what it leads to is just understanding your product better, the users of the product, and understanding where does this product or what does this fit better in their lifestyle, and that's all through that community space.
All right. Okay. Okay. What's the community that you've been maybe a part of that made you feel some of that from the other
Yeah.
perspective, from the perspective of a member?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm currently within. I serve on the board of the Community Consultants Collective, where we are a group of consultants that specifically focus on online community building. And it's such a wonderful space because there's so there's so much connection there in terms of where we are in our journeys as consultants. Right? So if you're an entrepreneur, anyone listening, like, that it is very difficult to be a solopreneur or maybe have a smaller team. There's a lot of challenges that we face, right? And in this space we hold special interest groups weekly where we come together on a Zoom call and we talk about our pain points and what we're going through, even our wins. So this space is really special. It's really great. I really enjoy all of the members in there, and it's something that really resonates a lot with me, especially right now within my entrepreneurial journey.
Okay, so the weekly calls that you have over there, so these are like what I hear from community managers are rituals that you
Yeah.
try and build.
Yeah, definitely. So there's definitely, I would call it a ritual. Yeah, it's definitely some regularity there. I personally, I could say it's a sense of relief because I know I could just let some steam off with some folks who know what I'm going through. So yeah, I definitely look forward to those calls on the weekly cadence.
All right. Okay. Okay. I'm curious to know. So when was it that you knew that you wanted to get into community, that you wanted to professionally build communities?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the question. So for me, I guess I'll kind of hop into who I am, cover that a little bit, and also bridge that into how I knew it was time for me to really go full on in the work. So I have a background in nonprofit work, and that's really community centered. And I was really focused on fostering connections, facilitating these environments for people all in person to really come together and really building that community environment in person. And I did that for the last 5 years, and I kind of fell into that work through my time at university. I needed an internship, and I joined this large nonprofit organization, and that's where I knew I really wanted to help people and bring people together. But again, at that time, I was only focusing on in person. And then within the last 3 years or so, I was starting my entrepreneurial journey, and I thought I was going to start a cleaning business. Go figure. And I joined a online platform that I felt that was going to be helpful. And I never thought of online community concept, but I was just joining more so to connect with people and learn more about getting into that market of work. So long story short, I was on the phone with this community owner of the space, and she's just it was a one-on-one call, and she's just extremely distracted. As she constantly had like pings coming in and people needing her. And for some reason, I had a light bulb moment, and I said, "Hey, you know what? I can help you with that." And she's like, "You can help me like run my community." I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." I don't know where this came from, but I guess it was just something that I felt in the moment. And she was super excited about it. It didn't turn into much, but I felt like at that moment I had a proof of concept because we had conversations from that point on about how I could support. So that's kind of like how the things really started, rolling for me. And ever since then, I've just been really intrigued and deeply in the work.
Right. Okay. So in a sense, it came like very naturally to you
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you
Very
when,
natural.
right. So were you like that like a kid? I mean, when you were a kid, were you someone who would like naturally get other kids around you?
Yeah, I think so. I would think so. Maybe not the other kids around me. Maybe I wasn't that popular to them, but I thought I was pretty cool and I always felt like that I could bring an energy into the room, right? And uplift people and, shake hands and start conversation. And I feel like that naturally that just kind of goes over into the work that I do, right? I love meeting people and I love helping people. So I would definitely say maybe as a kid I was probably doing a little bit of that as well.
Right. Okay. Okay. So that leads me to sort of this question where, uh, so you know, over the last few years, and I'll use some of my personal experience here that
Sure.
while we've been working in the space uh, and learning more about it, I've come across a number of courses around community management, the basics of community management, how you can maybe go from 100 members to 1,000 members, or 0 to
Sure.
10, and things like that, broken into different sort of phases and different levels. And I've taken a few of those courses. I've read
Nice.
books, and I've always wondered that, are there people who are naturally fit to become community managers? Is this a
Yeah.
nature versus nurture kind of thing? Can those skills be picked up by anyone?
Sure.
Where
Yeah.
do you lean uh, when?
Yeah. I think, there's a few things to consider there. I believe anyone in this work, they naturally know that they are a people person in terms of, being able to serve and make an impact on individuals. And I believe there's a lot of different ways to do that, right? It doesn't have to solely be online community. That's just one way to do it. But I believe if you kind of have a desire to bring people together or just help people, really, if one of those two options, then I believe that you can in fact become very successful within this work. With any profession, I believe there is a tie between hard skills and then soft skills of it. And some of those skill sets can be taught and learned after a while, right? Especially for me, how I kind of got started is certifications, and then I got some formal roles. But I would say nothing really beats just getting your hands dirty and really in there and just working with people and seeing what works or what doesn't work in this type of field of work that we do. So I believe if you naturally just want to help folks out, then I believe if that's the way you get started, it can lead you down a very successful path within online community building.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
On your website, Will, you say something which is very interesting. So, I mean, there's a
Yeah.
line on your website which says connection doesn't happen by accident.
Yeah.
And if I mean, if you go back to a time when the web was not there, a lot of stuff would, I mean, there was a lot of serendipity to sort of people connecting, and maybe those connections did not last as long. I
Yeah.
think what community is also doing is that it is sort of ensuring that when those connections happen, they last longer. Uh,
Sure.
but so if it's not accident, then what's sort of building a intentional community like?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. So, you know, I believe, where that came from and why we put it on our website to folks is because I believe it resonates because a lot of people start with the technology typically first with these spaces, which is a huge like part of it, right? Your community needs a home, right? It needs a home. But in addition to that, why it was posted on there is because connection is, I believe, nurtured within an environment that is intentionally facilitated to do so, right? So connection is something where not only are people connecting one on one, but they're connecting in the sense of a need being fulfilled. So again, I always like to pull back to the example of like associations, for example. Say if it's a trade association and someone's trying to further their career or get some more professional development, right? That online community is a great connection for them in terms of where they are in their journey. So that could be specifically someone who is fresh out of college and looking to get a little bit more experience under their belt, or find a mentor, right? Or something that could help them further themselves within their career path. And that is a strong connection. And then with that connection, they find more reason to keep showing up, and that furthers the connection now a little bit deeper past the learning materials. They now have other individuals who are trying to grow as well. So it really is a nurturing space for individuals that's facilitated regularly, and the connection again is huge. If people aren't seeing a path for themselves through your community space, then you may unfortunately experience some retention issues, or maybe not as much activity as you would hope. So those are things that we at Liaison we consider a lot, in terms of how are we really helping that member through their journey, and that helps also that organization have that community as a need within their space.
Okay, and your company liaison. So,
Yeah.
how did that name come to you?
Yeah. So liaison community. So basically a liaison is just someone or who serves as the middle person between connecting two different entities, usually an organization with someone else. There's just the middle person. And that's how we see ourselves. We are the middle person for connecting your organization, no matter what level it is, to the people that you want to connect with your stakeholders, with your audience. And we nurture and we make sure that is in good shape to grow, right? So that's it. It always stuck with me. I used it in a lot of different ways. Again, when I was in my early years of entrepreneurship, liaison was just always in the front because I always wanted to connect individuals with the right people, or me just directly connecting with the right people. So I believe it's a fun word to put in front of there, but also I believe it's a lot of meaning behind it as well.
Yeah, I mean, when you explain it, I mean, it is a word that carries a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Because you are intentionally sort of getting people together.
Yeah.
But then, but then I also feel that in a sense there is. I mean, one would expect that once a liaison has sort of sparked that connection, has brought those people together, a liaison then takes a backseat. So, in a
Yeah.
sense, you are doing the heavy lifting, but then
Yeah.
you're also wanting or having to become more invisible as those connections develop. How do you balance that?
Yeah. So, in terms of balancing and getting things off to a good foot, that's our job, is really to make sure that our clients feel confident within their space, right? And what we do is, we coach them and let them know exactly the frame of mindset around online community building. So, I believe that there are curves, right? So you might see the first maybe 2 weeks you see a lot of engagement, and then maybe the other 2 weeks, but towards the end of that 31st days of the online community, you might see some engagement kind of fall off, right? So first thing we do is we always coach and set realistic expectations, and let them know, like, hey, that's okay, that's normal, right? The thing is, we want to make sure that our clients are prepared for when they're not seeing that engagement, or you know they may be a little bit unsure about too much engagement and it's not really converting into anything. And one of our things, our slogans here recently has been conversation to transformation. So right now I believe in the community world, there's I would call it maybe like a metric, a vanity metric of, I have a lot of conversations happening in the space, which is great. That's a good area to start in terms of the health of your community. But what are those people really getting? The conversations could be, in fact, helping them with that transformation, but also, are they learning something? Are they being relieved of a pain point? Are they, experiencing growth within your community beyond just the chat in the space? So, um, we really focus on just coaching and understanding, letting our clients understand that this is just the nature of online community. Everyone is different. You might see a good 20% that are super active in your space, and then you might see a 80% where people are just not as active. And the same applies to even in-person community building, right? If you shoot out a newsletter of 100 invites, you may not see all 100 people attend, right? So we really make sure to convey that to our clients, that they understand what they're getting into, and that they don't have to overthink it. A lot of people panic when they don't see likes and comments. So, the upside of the work that we do, I will say, there is no algorithm. We're not fighting against something that is with not within our control. In fact, it is within our control. And we try to strategize through those downs, and then when we're up, we're glad about it. And then those down times, that's when we strategize and try to figure out the best approach. So, in all, I would say just expecting human behavior. Even though this is a digital landscape, people always won't show up how you expect them to, and that goes into a deeper strategy piece of things. I won't go down right now, but yeah, it's just understanding how these spaces really operate is really helpful.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like you talked about those expectations and setting those expectations when you're getting into this process, and
Yeah.
that is, I think, a very very key thing when it comes
Yeah,
to working with different clients who are ready or may perhaps already have a community. So
sure.
I'm also curious. So generally, when you're speaking with a prospect, I are you generally at the stage when they are beginning a community from, or would they already have a community and they want you to come in as the expert and help them engage that community better? Are there
Yeah,
specific outcomes that people are looking for? And also, if you could touch upon this, that
sure.
do people have a specific timeline within which they want to see results?
Yeah, so I'll start with that last part. So specific timeline. So we make it very clear to our clients that our job is to put them in the best position to see results and success based off what we've seen successful within this work, and we want to apply that and tailor that to their organization around their needs. Right. So we let them know, we are positioning you. We are going to help save you a lot of time and headache, and we're going based off real experience, right? That should help you get there. And then, secondly, in terms of just like timeline, we have specific milestones. So if it's, for example, like a 3 month engagement, we'll say at the end of month one, the first 30 days, the platform should be built out in terms of all copy and automations, right? So that's something that we can realistically control. I would never tell a client, "Hey, we can get you 1,000 members within the first week or the first 24 hours," right? Like that's kind of ridiculous. And also, there's some red flags around that. So, for instance, if someone's saying they want 1,000 members, I kind of push back on that because I would rather my clients have their first maybe 250 to 500 members who are ideal members who are going to keep showing up in the space, right? Versus just having that 1,000 people just to say you have 1,000 people. And sometimes those folks aren't really there to connect with individuals. And then the folks who are, in fact, there to really connect and get something valuable out of the space, it's a little cloudy, right? They may not find the right folks in there. So I would rather it be less than more. And I always say that within this work and for a lot of different aspects of it. And to that last part, I believe you had mentioned, within our control, we're very upfront about that. So if it's something that you want to do in terms of, if we're talking in terms of an organization, they want to save money through product development. Well, yeah, we can certainly be strategic about how we build this space so that members, your audience, stakeholders, they understand the intention and what they're coming into, rather than maybe like a customer support community, right? Like they know what they're getting into, and we want to make that very clear, very simple to understand, and very usable for our members. So hopefully that answers your questions for that one.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So what I'm
Very
hearing
cool.
is that there are there are different sort of objectives to building communities that the prospect may have,
Yeah.
from building a customer support community to product development. Some maybe with some prospects, you will do that kind of discovery with them because they may not also have that clarity when they are beginning that
Yeah.
journey. Uh,
Yeah.
and and what happens when when you get this hunch that maybe the customer is right now not ready to build a community, but like community is also become like this label that everyone wants and needs to have today.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, how do you navigate that, when you know that maybe this is not community in the sense that we are looking at community, but
Yeah.
every brand will have it on their website?
Yeah. Yeah. I believe community right now is definitely, I guess you could say, a buzzword where a lot of people are using it, throwing it around, which is fine, right? No one technically owns the word. But we've come across a lot of organizations who are ready to build community, but they're still on, social media. They're still using certain specific platforms that wouldn't be considered like a community platform, and that's okay, right? Because if they come to us, and I believe this backs a little bit to your other previous question, if they come to us and they say we want to build an online community, but we want to do it on social media, that's not really where we specialize. But what we tell them is, you're in a great place, right? Because you're in your proof of concept phase, right? You understand there's a need, you understand that there's people interested in meeting this need, right? So you're in a great place just to get the ball rolling and build from there. And then we have clients who come to us who already fully understand there's no really need of education there, what the online community could do for them. They're pretty much bought in, but they just want to make sure they get alongside a partner that could, help steer and kind of taking them in the right direction. And then sometimes we have clients who come to us who have a community and they don't know exactly, everything's built out. They have programs in that space, but they don't know exactly how it's meeting the ROI of the company or how it's connecting in some type of way as a bridge between community and the business needs. So that's where we step in. What's really interesting, what we're seeing a lot, and it's kind of funny, we was talking about community as a buzzword, is community is even getting thrown around internally a lot with a lot of these organizations, to where like marketing is leading the online community space, and it's not so much of like experience. It's just more so of like capability. They know how to talk to people in a frame of mindset of kind of like social media. And so, long term, that affects really what organizations are trying to do, right? Because they feel like they're treating it more so like a checklist and tasks versus like a
Right.
nurturing and a facilitation of a space. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, very interesting. And you sort of you. I mean, every organization needs both. You sort
Yeah.
of need those eyeballs, and you want to
Yeah.
get people closer to you, and then you
Yeah.
want to dive deeper and retain that audience that you're building.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Absolutely.
so, so isn't that also a lot of pressure on the organization or the professional creator or even you
Mhm.
as the community
Yeah.
manager when you come in? Uh,
Yeah.
like we've seen the web sort of take us through this graph where every company, when for example Bill Gates wrote that famous essay "Content is King," and
Yeah.
it took some time to get there, but every company has sort of tended to become a media company. You need a media vertical in every company.
Yes.
uh,
Yeah.
with social media coming in, with people creating a lot many accounts, every company, organization has moved a little bit towards wanting to have a community vertical. uh, I feel now we are also maybe seeing, because a lot of that is happening online, we've also been
Yeah.
craving offline. So every company or organization is now wanting to build an events vertical. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a lot of pressure on this word
It can
community.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
How do
can
you
be.
how do you deal with that?
I think it's just clarity. Again, I think it's clarity, and less is always more, and just making it very, upfront and simple to understand where we fit in, like in terms of just, I guess, product market fit. This is exactly where we focus specifically on these type of platforms that do XYZ for your community space. And I think, overall, I would say it's an interesting time. I feel like it's exciting that community is a buzzword right now. It kind of, for me, it makes me excited because I believe, because we are in such a digital landscape, companies are going to want to continue to feed into that, and they'll realize, hey, we actually have an online, like, following, an online space. Well, excuse me, beyond following, we have something that's beyond following, more so people who are, um, want to be a part of something and really make a difference, and be impactful intentionally versus just following, or throwing a community around as a buzzword. They really want to capture what it is and hone in on it and see what they can build around it, right? So I believe it's an interesting time. I see we meet with a lot of organizations, again, that sometimes aren't too clear on how they want to utilize their community, and I feel like that's where, that again, the education piece comes in, where we're just really clear about what it means for them and what it means for us in terms of how we can service them.
Right. And in these conversations, I mean, AI is the other buzzword, so we'll also
There we go.
talk about, leave that out. So I mean, in these conversations, how does AI come in, and how does AI fit in, and what's, and I'd love for you to take us through sort of
Yeah.
both perspectives here, from an organization's perspective, and also
Yeah.
first perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So AI, as we know, it's being inserted in everyone's work in some type of way, right? And what's interesting enough, my initial thoughts around AI and specifically community is I believe is going to emphasize the need of more human connection. Like I believe that it's going to put us in a place where people kind of can sense that they're talking to an AI versus a human being. So that's kind of right off the bat for me is I believe people are going to seek more human connection. And then secondly, the way I view AI is it can't really replace that human to human connection in terms of, the experience that I might have in building an online community versus what AI might tell you to do to build your online community. Right. I believe there's more of a trust factor there and you can resonate a little bit better when you're talking to a human who's done the work. And, AI can't replicate my last 6 to 7 years of doing this work, right? They didn't go through the ups and downs that I've experienced and the success and, the failures. It can't replicate that long of, experience and time that I put into this craft. So, I'll get to the upside of AI. I believe that AI is going to make our lives a lot more efficient in terms of community. So, as a person who's kind of behind the scenes looking at dashboards and pulling reports, that AI could, seek information or summarize information a lot quicker for me to make an informed decision in terms of, what that platform or what that community is looking to do. It's a great assistant. I know some platforms are implementing AI assistant. Hey, to the member directly, it'll say, "Hey, what can I help you find in this space? What are you looking for?" I love it in that sense. And if we're talking about communities at scale, AI is going to be great in those ways that I just mentioned, right? So there's a lot of upside and downside. I just think it kind of depends on where you want to utilize it within your work and what you do. Um, for AI to be a part of that.
Right. Yeah. I was having this conversation with someone, and
Yeah,
I just want to bring that in here. So, so this person, I mean, we were talking about AI, we were talking about moderation. So moderation was actually one place where they felt that AI would really help them in terms of larger communities,
sure.
and things like that. And they said this something which really stuck with me, which was that, ever since this conversation around AI started, and we've been taught to think of having the human in the loop and let AI do all the magic. And
Yeah,
maybe we should not be thinking like that. It should be the other way around. The humans are
yeah,
really putting everything in place. AI is in loop, and we have
yeah,
to kind of thing. And
yeah.
then,
I love that.
yeah, it's like
Yeah,
it's a just
exactly. No, and that's the thing. Like, it still needs an operator. That's the way I always explain it. Like AI, as of yet, right? Maybe at some point, but it still needs an operator to program it to tell it what to do. Even if it's programmed and it goes off and does it 30 days on its own, someone had to basically ignite that action for it to take place. So, yeah, to your point, yeah, I believe it still needs that operator.
right. I'll tell you what one thing AI has done is that,
Sure.
with the assistant, the need for an AI assistant, with search moving from sort of earlier Google search to
Sure.
one-stop answers that we are now getting to. How has that, in your sense, changed the expectation and the patience levels of members within communities?
Yeah.
Because I see some of that with myself, because now we are increasingly used to chat interfaces for search and for interactions, and get
Yeah.
this, on these comprehensive answers in a snap.
Yeah.
But community also requires patience at one
Yes.
level. And
Yeah.
how, I mean, are you seeing sort of some tension over there, and is
Yeah.
that something you talk about as well?
Yeah. So, I think it goes back a little bit to setting, expectations around AI, setting expectations around just the nature of community with clients primarily. It's not going to solve all our problems overnight. Like, if you could point me to someone who could figure out how to get everyone engaged and what they need going in the community overnight, let me know. I would love to have the conversation with them. But I would say, typically in this work, upfront about how long this could take. It's interesting because fast, I feel like it's the thing nowadays, right? Like, we have our phones, it's a supercomputer in our pocket. We could do so much so quickly. But when you're dealing with human to human connection, that takes time, right? And what's so important about allowing that process take as long as it needs to necessarily is you're building something that is, I would say, indestructible in terms of trust. Like, you're building direct connection for an organization looking to build this online community. They're building a space where people can genuinely be themselves. And AI plugs into that a little bit in terms of, I guess you could say, the tactical, checking off the list, approach of things. But just in terms of human connection, it's really, you can't rush it, man. Like, you can't rush relationships and connection. One interesting thing I'll share, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts, is community policy. Right, this is something my colleagues and I have start talking about. Is more specifically community policy around AI usage. Right, so how are we educating members around AI? Are they okay with AI being in the community? This is something that's been freshly brought up, and I'm just curious to hear your initial thoughts around it and what that means for you in the space that on your side of this type of work.
Yeah, this is something we keep debating day in and day out, uh,
Yeah,
and uh, and you're right. Increasingly, AI is sort of providing and adding value in a multiple functions across industries, across sort of workflows. And for
true.
example, when it comes to content generation, I am a big believer that any content that is generated with AI should be labeled this is generated with AI, and make it absolutely clear to the reader or the viewer, the audience, that they know, this is AI
Yeah,
generated. So they should
yeah,
carry that badge. And similarly, I feel that even in a community, if I mean the member should know, and
yeah,
maybe the operator decides if it fits their vision of community, and the operator and the member can maybe have that level of transparency between them and figure out what works best for them. But
yeah,
like you said, there is only, if it is really adding value in terms of efficiency for the operator and the community manager, then there is value in building that capability. Uh,
yeah.
but I think we should not be looking at it as this magic pill, also, which is what we tend to do a lot with technology. There was a time when it was just like, let's build an app for that, and uh, I, I I feel that we are close to that as a trap when
Yeah,
it comes to
yeah,
AI.
yeah,
With expectation that we just go out there, write a detailed prompt, and it'll solve everything for us.
yeah,
So that's also an impression that we don't want to give. The other way, which uh, about which we've been thinking about in terms of AI, is to do with how people are really doing search and discovery online. And so and you would know, and maybe this is also something that you talk about with your prospects, is how community and the public part of community, the forums, which may have
yeah,
public channels, have also tended to bring in visibility in terms of SEO and search online, and
yeah, yeah,
provide that value in terms of rankings. And we've been debating internally about how much of that should be open to LLMs for them to be able to scrape that
yeah,
off, train that, train their data, because that data is really the organizations and the community
yeah,
members.
Yeah.
Should LLMs have the ability to just come in and pick all of that data and serve that response on basis of that data within their interface, so that
Right.
maybe somebody else, I mean, it is immensely valuable, but then somebody who finds that answer within that interface may not even
Yeah.
come to the community. So that's
Yeah.
another thing that we've been navigating, and these are some things that again, I think the operator should know that what are the places where AI is coming in and what are the kind of implications it can have.
Sure.
Uh, and from our perspective, we are just putting that transparency out there, and we are telling them that these are choices that you can make. But then if you choose, then it may have some impact on visibility, it may have some impact on maybe how close your community members are,
Yeah.
and yeah, so that's
Yeah.
that's how we're
Yeah.
looking at it. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, this, as you broke it all down beautifully. Is there's so many layers to this, right? Like there's so many different layers to. But I think a guiding light for us here at Liaison is just being transparent, and as that's also just like a value, a practice that we want to install in the communities that we help build. It's just like a community guideline that's very honest. Like, hey, yes, we are using AI for this reason. Your data may be captured for this reason. It's up to you if that's okay or if it's not okay, right? So transparency, when you're building a relationship with people, is very important. So yeah, beautifully said.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think and transparency ties so deeply to community as well. I mean,
It does. Yeah,
I,
absolutely.
I think we at times we have our answers right in front of us. It just depends how well we are sort of.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm also curious that
Sure.
increasingly, because I mean, because community is not sort of, it's not like uh, something that you can immediately walk into. It's something that you
Sure.
gradually build towards. So some organizations maybe have a community role within their organizations. Some
Sure.
hire and have a contract to build a community and manage it for them. And then there is, of course, now increasingly fractional community management.
Yeah.
Uh, how do you sort of deal with fractional community management?
Hmm.
For a function which can have a very sort of deep and long term impact and
Yeah.
involvement. So how does fractional community management work? And
Yeah.
yeah, if you could talk
Yeah.
about that.
No, that's a great one. So how it works for us is, um, we like to consider to be a part of your team, but still the expert of what it is that we focus on, which is, usually for a fractional community management engagement, that's typically something centered around, you're experiencing low engagement or you want to start programming and you don't have the capacity to have someone in there to run it every day to get some type of result. So what that looks like for us is we're usually inserted into the team. So sometimes it's a director or someone who is overseeing the community aspect of organization that we work side by side. Uh, Sometimes it depending on programming what we're trying to do, it'll cross over with a little bit more collaboration with marketing. But how we like to see it is just that we are on your team and we are the experts within a specific space. So, it's really, again, collaboration is really heavy on collaboration. So really understanding what are you trying to do? Does it make sense? How can we bring it to life? And then kind of just have those conversations and understand what's needed in terms of resources. What do you have available and what we have available to make it happen, and really just collaborating and bringing it all together. So typically, it looks different because sometimes some teams are larger than others. So it might be more than one or two people one on one. But however, we like to insert ourselves seamlessly within, the organization of where community lies and try to make it as simple as possible because we really just want to focus on the work overall, right? So who are the main people over this? Let's collaborate with them, figure out how they work and how we can insert ourselves and just get focused to the experience of members ultimately. So that's kind of what it looks like in terms of fractional community management. We haven't really ran into any issues with that because they know as a consultancy, they just bring us in, right? And that's kind of like how usually those relationships operate. So it's been good for us.
Right. Right. Yeah, and I mean, I would imagine that it also serves as a gateway for a lot of
Yeah.
organizations to sort of test it out. If it is something that suits their
Yeah.
vision and path that they're trying to build towards.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, we look at it as lower risk as well, because sometimes people want to, hire in a full-time role and they really don't have an understanding of what community is necessarily. And they're putting a lot of HR is putting a lot of time and resources searching and looking for the right person. And there's a lot resource that has to back that type of approach to it. So what we do is, you bring us in and we focus solely on what you need, right? You don't have to go through all of that. So it's something that we've had success in, and we're looking forward to continuing with, anyone out there who needs that type of support.
Right. And also to maybe just get a little bit deeper into it. So when
Sure.
when you would sort of begin a project as a
Hmm.
fractional community manager, or even as maybe a long-term sort of community management program, would
Sure.
you be then in touch with all the functions within an organization, all the verticals within an organization, or would you just be sort of interacting with the leadership? Because communities
Hmm.
is a very integrated part of the
Yes.
business of the
Yeah.
organization, I imagine. So, how would that look like?
Yeah. So what we like to do is first just identify again one who is the head lead of the community space. So usually that's like, again, a title around like director of community engagement. And usually that person is who we directly work with in understanding their online community space and what they need. At times, we've also seen leadership, so higher like executives, founders, usually CEO titles come into play because they understand the value of it, and they come in with a curiosity, to be honest, of like, who is this person that's going to help us do, this XYZ thing that we're trying to do? Like, what does it look like? So, and those are my favorite things to do, is really have that connection, because I believe it builds trust, and also it helps me understand the direction of that they're trying to go, right, for the head person who's kind of leading the pack. But yeah, so it depends. So sometimes, again, marketing is a part of that. I'll give you an example for an association that we've worked alongside of. We was doing a new incentive, like a program around mentoring for this association, and primarily this brought in a lot of the marketing team towards the end of, like, building it out on the platform of the community, making sure it's good there, but also there was an external part of it. So marketing had to come in and had those conversations with them of, where is this newsletter, or what's going to be said in this, like, what is community, what does it mean, right? So just, anyone on the project that necessarily can contribute to the success of it, we always encourage to bring them into the room, right? And, in terms of the service itself, for the community itself, we focus first solely on kind of what's broken here and what's not working. So that's kind of where we start and audit things out. And we understand, what numbers look like in terms of dashboard, so that we have a realistic, goal of something that we're working towards, right, overall. So just really understanding the need, and then bringing the folks in necessarily to try to meet and make some change around that problem.
Okay, yeah. I mean, very interesting example that you gave there. So,
Yeah.
I mean, and in this example, like for example, you talked about a newsletter that the organization may have already have, and then at one point you're building this community, and so there are multiple touch points that already exist, and then you're
Yeah.
sort of coming in and building this community. So you have to get that messaging right,
Yeah.
and you also want to sort of make it easy to manage, because I would imagine that the organization is already sort of I mean, their functions are scattered across multiple tools that they're already using.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so how, I mean, where does the community tool, or I mean, and you mean, I mean, one may not even look at it as a tool, so to speak, because I mean, communities could be, the home
Yeah.
could be in different places for the
Yeah. Sure.
organization. Uh,
Sure.
but how much does the tool sort of issue impact the sort of health of a community from an operator point of view and a member point of view?
Yeah. So, like, in terms of just like dashboards and being able to look at data and analytics, Yeah, so I believe that's a huge part of it, of the work. Typically I'll start here. So typically with founders, that we work with, their concern is the numbers, right? Like this is not really, we're not seeing a connection between community and what we're trying to do better here in the business space. So that's something that we really want to like figure out coming in on a project is, what are your concerns around these numbers? And from there we try to develop the plan, the strategy to figure that out essentially. So in terms of a member's perspective, it's always really just focused on the value. So in terms of like programming within the space, kind of going back to that, is we always think about how can this content programming help this person, and who exactly is it helping within their journey. So it might be different from someone who is a new professional versus someone who's a little bit more tenured and experienced. um, so we take all those things in consideration when we're developing some type of programming. Like, how is this meeting a need for people? One thing we always like to tell our clients in terms of content and numbers is within a community space, you shouldn't be posting anything that's static, right? Like it should be something that is engaging, right, for your members. It should be something that makes them want to say, oh, hey, how can I use this today, right? How can I use this in my day to day? It shouldn't be anything of a photo. I mean, those are fine, right? I'm not going to steer anyone away, but try to stay away from that and rather have something that is more of a tool or a conversation that ignites interest for people, that they can really use and take away from that content plan or whatever that you're implementing within the space. So the mentor incentive, program around that was excellent because it was an association of members who were just getting started within the medical field of things and people who are just exiting out, right? So it was an interesting mix to be able to have a program that brought people together that they really found value in. And that was a fun project. It was really cool to see, implementation of that. And then also, see the feedback from it. Feedback is really huge. And ultimately that feedback help the numbers and make decisions better around what we could do, right, and more intentionally around the work. So it's very important to understand the numbers from the beginning and kind of let that steer you in the right direction.
Right. Right, absolutely. And like you said, so I'm going to take this point and you know note it and sort of use it later on also, that there is a content community fit that we should be looking at.
Yeah.
Uh, it is not like not everything that goes out on social. I mean, may sort of find its way into the
Yeah.
community in some form, but
Sure. Sure.
we need to tailor content towards the community better.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Very cool.
And is that a role that someone who's already creating content for social can take on? Uh, is there a different way to look at it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I would say yes, because I believe it's a matter of kind of changing your mindset around it on the content that you're making. So rather it being again static content that's like more of a the mindset is static content for us, right? We tell our clients is they can't really take much away from it. You don't want your members within your community to react to your online community space as they do with social media, technically. So with online community building, it's sometimes boiled down to, for members, changed behavior. So we're looking for changed behavior. So, anyone who's posting social media content, I believe they can, um, you know, adjust how it is that they upload that content and what it looks like. And again, feedback is a huge part of that, and being able to test things is a huge part of that. And it's like building a muscle, right? Because maybe at one point they didn't know how to upload content on social media that was great. So I believe it's building a muscle and just understanding that you have to iterate and kind of just go with what's working in the space.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. 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 So I just have a couple of more questions, and then we'll get
Sure.
into
Yeah.
rapid fire
Yeah.
with you.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
and and this question is just sort of coming to my mind, because we've been talking about how community at the core of it is about people, and so I mean there is this aspect of how formal or informal can a community be, especially
Yeah.
when maybe you are working in a sort of a corporate setting, an association which is very sort of work oriented, perhaps, and maybe there are different layers to it, and different audiences that may define this. So I would love for you to take us through this, and also, I mean, so I imagine a community as perhaps a room also, and when you walk into
Yeah.
that room, you sort of
Absolutely.
get a vibe of that room.
Yeah.
So what are the indicators of that vibe in an online community, and how
Yeah.
informal can these get?
Yeah, so I've definitely seen some fun communities in terms of what's formal and informal. I believe that, every community, number one, is different, and the informal ones are great as well. I typically see the informal ones develop through social media, so it could be something such as um it could be something around an interest like just music, right? Like these are just artists who really just want to come together and talk music, and there's nothing super formal there in terms of like certifications or resources or courses. So I would classify that more so an informal space where people just uniquely come together in terms of just like the love of music and making music. So those are always fun. Those are in ways, I guess, from our side, or more or less pressure. But then also we find ourselves, talking with organizations that are more formal. So typically, associations to enterprises, those are the more formal rooms where they're looking for some type of ROI at the end of the day from their community space. So again, is this going to support, product development? Is it going to support, the support area of the community? Like, how is it really backing to what the business needs of the community? So, hand in hand, I enjoy both. I believe they're all very cool. And even with those more formal spaces, they don't have to be super stiff, like these are humans, right? Like you want to be able to engage with people. And if you formalize it too much, then you may not get people to be really comfortable and to be themselves. And that's where the magic shows up, is when people can feel like they can be themselves in the space, add ideas, maybe push back on ideas, and ultimately just come together around a commonality, and feel comfortable in that space doing so. So, yeah, there's a lot of cool different communities out there. I'm always running across some cool ones. Lego is a good one, to like Monday.com, the CRM. They also have an online community, right? So there's a lot of cool options out there. And I, encourage anyone to find your niche and what works for you, and get connected with people.
Right, right. And since we were talking about this, so from that lens of of associations and enterprises approaching community, how comfortable are they at the outset with the idea of community having a function where members also interact with other members, which is like a core part of any community, because
Yeah.
when that happens, you're not able to sort of control the narrative around the brand.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
see that, and I mean, and perhaps that is where the most authentic brands shine.
Right.
But how do organizations look at that aspect of community?
Yeah. So, what we share with our clients is what's important through building out a space, or coming in and revitalizing, like bringing a space, revamping a space, is, the community guidelines. So we always look at community guidelines, and sometimes those guidelines can be very templated out, where it's just like, hey, AI, write out some community guidelines for this type of space. But that's really an opportunity for one to let members know what they can expect in the community, in a sense, but also what the community expects from them. So how to show up within the space. This is a space where you show up, excited, and this is a space, you hold curiosity, feel comfortable to ask questions. This is a space to connect with people. So what we tell our clients is make that clear through the community guidelines, right? It's not always just about, don't do this or do, like, that's part of it, don't get me wrong, but also it's an opportunity to help, again, shape the mindset around the space and how to show up in it, so that it's conductive for them, like it's beneficial for them. So, being upfront and just, less is more, and letting people know, hey, this is an informal space where you could just share as much music as you want to, right? Or this is a more formal space of professionals who want to go a little bit deeper and figure out certain things that they're trying to learn within their career. So it really boils down to those community guidelines, and just allowing people to understand how to show up and best use the space for their purpose.
Right. An add-on question to that.
Sure.
So, so perhaps so. I mean, when you're building this community and wanting to establish that closer connection, you've got to be a little more raw in a sense. Maybe
Yeah.
talk about
Yeah.
straight up
Certainly.
behind the scenes. There was a lot of talk about what maybe Justin Bieber kind of did at Coachella. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, and that was fun, even for someone looking at it from thousands of miles away.
Yeah.
What's the equivalent of that for an organization or an enterprise?
Yeah, yeah. So it sounds like you're speaking to like transparently showing up and just being raw and being yourself without being extremely filtered. I believe it plays a key part. I believe it plays a key part in building like the magic within the community space, because the online, the digital space, it's you show up in some spaces. If it's LinkedIn, you kind of know how to show up there versus how you show up on maybe Instagram, right? So not everyone would post something that they would post on LinkedIn that they would post on social media where their mom may also can see what they're doing, right? So I would say, unfortunately, sometimes in some of these landscapes, people are, I guess, maybe like for better words, conditioned on how to show up, like an expectation around it. But with online community, within those community guidelines, within those rails appropriately, we want you to show up as authentic as you can, right? Like there's no right or wrong here. There is no you should be in this particular area of life or your journey, whatever it is that you're in the space for. Just show up as yourself, right? And that is the uniqueness and the connection that we want to build in these spaces. That's where people really find the magic. That's where it could really change lives, essentially. So people just being themselves and really feeling free to do so is where the engagement happens, is where the magic happens, where people can feel comfortable to be themselves, and hopefully someone else sees that and then inspires them to do that, and it just could build from there more on. So we really encourage people just to show up as themselves and respect the space, of course, and enjoy it for what it is.
Right. And I'm guessing that when that happens, when you see stories like that from members coming into the community, that's
Yeah.
that's that's sort of one success metric for you. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, we believe so. We believe it connects to people, you know, finding something unique. That one thing could be the reason why they keep coming back, right? So we really encourage people just to be comfortable and to be themselves.
okay. Raw part of our conversation.
Yeah, right. Behind the scenes.
Okay. Yeah, I just had a few more rapid fire questions. And the only sort of big question that remained was that, when you look back and trace the curve of the community industry,
Yeah.
what are the inflection points that you see, and where
Yeah.
would you see this role in a few years?
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent question. When we kind of look back in terms of like, I guess, key mark times of community building, I believe it's always been there. I mean, honestly, even prior to, the internet, to be honest. So human connection is just like a human, it's a thing that we, I desire, and also I would say like require as human beings, is some type of connection. But when we bring technology into the conversation, that helps us do that at a different um, level, right? So you and I are both across the world in different places, but we have a commonality that we could sit here and talk hours on about community, right? So once you insert technology, it goes beyond, right? It goes to scale. Where we are and what I believe is, don't quote me on this, but I believe a community within the next 5 years or 10 years is going to be an industry that every organization is going to want to break into. And the reason being is because, the digital landscape has already proven through social media, right, as a hub, a centralized hub for people to connect and come together, has already proven to be $1 billion industry. So I believe, online community once people are more aware of what it is and what it means for them, right? I believe that community is going to be something that really is going to be impactful. And that's what we really focus on, is building something that's impactful for organizations and members, right? Because the impactful mindset around it means that it's something that people want to be a part of, right? They always want to be a part of it. So I believe it's going to be huge. There's so many upsides to it. And again, social media, it was a little slow in terms of companies and organizations adopting a social media page. Like, I feel like they kind of treated it as a TikTok dance. It's just kind of silly. Like, what are we doing on these socials? But now it's a real thing, right? Where you see all these platforms all have a social media, right? Like, to every platform that you can imagine, because they know that their audience is sitting there watching them more so than TV maybe now. So I believe, online community is just going to be the next level of getting going deeper with, stakeholders and the audience, and building that trust. And it's going to be a beautiful thing. I'm super excited. We're excited. I'm excited for you as well, and what it means for us and
Right.
the individuals who are part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a beautiful way to sum it up. Yeah, we're absolutely excited and looking forward to so much possibility there. And I think you touched upon the most critical part there, in terms
Yeah.
of there being this human desire,
Yeah.
and that goes beyond the community being there for a brand or an association or whatever purpose that it may be solving.
Sure. Sure.
Once you have that people magic there, yeah, it
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's okay. I don't think it's in the space right now where people understand it. We've seen that learning curve with social media, and now look at it, to my point. So it's going to get there. But I believe pioneers like you and I are here to make sure it goes in the right direction. So yeah, super super excited for that.
Yeah, and I believe we're learning along the way also. I mean, speaking with so
Yeah,
many brands and associations and professional creators. I mean, like you said, there are, perhaps industries, music, games, which naturally lean towards building a community. And I don't know if we can look at them as a traditional community, so to speak. They're more like fan
sure.
communities.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, there is, of course, there is that member-to-member interaction, but it is still largely facilitated by that one hero. Uh,
Yeah.
and and I imagine
Absolutely.
what would happen to these communities if that hero were to sort of exit that space.
Yeah.
And that, but yeah, I mean, very interesting times.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so Will, so a few rapid fire questions for you,
All
and
right,
I'm
here we go.
yes. So since we were talking about music, what's a music band, musician, singers community that you are a part of or would want to be a part of?
Like a specific group or genre of music that I would see myself being a part of?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a good one. Well, in another universe, if I'm not doing online community, I think I would be a DJ. So I
Oh,
don't know
wow.
if that's a genre within itself, but I just really love mixing, and I haven't fully got into it because I'm so like obsessed with the work, but I would love just to mix music and see people react to that. So I think I would be a DJ somewhere in the world. Yeah.
Awesome. In this universe, in this lifetime, I would love to see that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. What's the biggest green flag when you're onboarding a new client for community?
Someone who's curious and they're open, right? A client who says, "Hey, I trust you," like using those words of just saying, "We're excited. I trust you. How about if we do this, Will? How does this sound?" Like, run ideas by me. I love a client that's really fired up about the work. That's the green flag for me, for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. And what's the biggest red flag? When you're building a community and something's not working, what's the biggest red flag that you would look at?
Maybe I'll rapid fire these answers because I've seen a lot of them. So the biggest red flag one would be, I need 1,000 members by yesterday. So people love to have that number thrown at me. Another one would be just post every day in the community. I mean, in some ways, yeah, you want to create like regularity, but you just don't want to throw unintentional stuff at people every day that's not meaningful. Um, and then what's the last one? I've gotten this one before. Someone said to me one time, um, I can start a community and get like 10,000 people over the next month or so. I've seen other people do it. I've seen other people do this with their community. That's kind of a red flag when people say, well, I've seen other communities do this. I mean, technically, yes, but no. Sometimes they could have had just like an organic thing that happened in that space, or, maybe they just hit their stride. Not every community looks the same. So that's
Right.
something that's a red flag sometimes, of trying to replicate exactly what someone else is doing, because every community has its own identity. So those are like, probably like my top three.
Right. No, fantastic ones. What's a feature in a community platform you wish existed? Like a magic thing that
This
you'd
is
want.
Man, so I'm you know what? I'm trying to keep up with you platform guys. You guys are so great at your jobs. I don't know what's out there to be desired. I would probably say um maybe, I don't know if this is the thing yet, but maybe like a weekly digest instead of it going to the members, maybe a digest that goes out to the people behind the scenes. So something that shoots me an email that says, hey, this is the churn this month, or this is how many active users are doing this, or this is how many people left. Like an email of like a snapshot of that. I feel like that would be great.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, engagement or growth? What do you sacrifice first?
Engage. Which one I would sacrifice?
Yeah.
Um, growth. I would sacrifice growth. I'm sticking with engagement. Like growth is great, but I feel like I mentioned this at the top of this conversation, is the more people that you have, the more you have to manage. And what I mean by that is the growth is great, but necessarily is everyone fit to be in that space? And I don't mean that in any type of wrong way. I mean that more so, I want the space to be beneficial for anyone who is interested. And if it's not, then I transparently would say, well, maybe you should look at this community, right? Versus that one, because I want everyone to get the value out of community. So I'm definitely sticking with engagement, because I believe engagement leads to transformation and helping people ultimately. And growth, it's great, right? But it's not the same as, managing the engagement in the space. So engagement over growth for me on that one. That's a good one.
Okay. Okay. And now I want you to give me two community metrics. The one community metric that you would give to the business side and the marketing
Okay.
side folks, so, because you know
Okay.
that that is what they're looking at, and one community metric that you secretly are very excited about.
Yeah. So one that I would give the marketing side of things. Oh, that's a good one. Let's see if I could stir up something. I will probably let marketing people know in terms of community. I would let them know retention. So, if they're doing a campaign and we're launching something that aligns with the program within the community, those people who funneled through that marketing lens that came into the community, and if they were there past 30 days, 60, 90 days, I would say retention. Like, hey, what you're doing is collaborating, working well with what we're doing on the inside. So these people are sticking around. So I would say like retention. I believe that's like a marketing word that
Right.
they use often. um, and then the second one was a metric that excites me. Is that
Yes.
the
Yeah.
second?
Yes.
There
Yes.
we go. I will honestly have to say, oh man, same answer. Like when I see people sticking around, retention again. Like when people come in the space and I'm looking at, how long someone has been in the community. If it's past like 6 months to a year, we must be doing something right. Or if people are renewing, right? If it's a paid community space and they're renewing, we must be doing something right, right? So Retention is huge on both ends for that. Is really conceptualizing what we're doing is saying that it's working. So retention on both, if I can answer that way.
Oh yeah, absolutely fantastic. Even better. Soft skills or strategy? What matters more for a great community manager?
Oh man, I feel like I'm a strategy guy because that's what we do. So I feel like soft skills support the strategy, yes, but the strategy has to be intentional. So I'll probably go with strategy. It's so important. It's where we help our clients get success and really feel confident in the work that they're doing. So as a strategist myself, yeah, I would say strategy.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, and one thing that every person who's now getting into community management should know.
Yeah. One thing, if you're listening to this, what can I share? How can I help you out to not bump your head as much as I did? I would say, be patient, have a lot of patience, and be flexible. Patience and flexibility. Understand that it could happen quickly, or maybe it may not take that long. More than likely, in this type of work, I've seen it take a little bit longer than what people try to stamp a timeline on. So just be flexible with that and be open to trying new things. And ultimately, with the right guidance and the right intentions and the right mindset around community building, you will get there. But it might not be the path that you've seen on how you got there. So just be flexible and just have a lot of patience and really show up for the right reasons. And I believe you could really go far in this work.
Okay, fantastic. And what's your take on notifications? How many notifications should a community be sending out? Weekly, monthly,
Oh
daily?
man, I mean, I think notifications is a good one. Notifications really depends on the intention behind the notification. So if it's a notification in regards to a reaction, a response to a comment, I feel like that should be a weekly thing that should pop up in their inbox. And then you have like your weekly digest where it captures everything that was notable in the space. I think that's an important one. And the way I'm looking at it is kind of like categorizing it versus just overloading.
Right.
And then the last one, depending on your community space, there probably should be like a newsletter, right? Of just updating terms of like the business or terms of where things are, whatever that you show up, the space you show up in. Um, but I will say less is more. So be careful. So don't overdo it. Just kind of narrow down where you think things are most impactful and valuable for your members and kind of just choose between those.
If you were building a community today, what's the
Yeah.
minimum amount of time you would give it before
If I
moving
was
forward?
building,
Yeah.
yeah, before it goes public. Um, I mean, for us, we do it within 3 months. Um, it depends. Honestly, it depends on how many chefs are in the kitchen. But the important part about building community is getting it to the members. So either that be like a test group, a founding member group, you want live people in the space. So I wouldn't focus too much on perfecting the community. I would just really get it in a good place that's presentable for people just to go in, because you don't know it all and you don't want to know it all. And those members, as soon as they hit the platform, are going to tell you what they like and what they don't like. So don't spend too much time trying to get the perfection before getting it to the general public, right? And the best way to do that is just do a soft launch. Do a soft launch with a smaller group and see how that goes, and then try to go to public from there. But yeah, it takes us about 3 months, excuse me, to help our clients typically, and I feel like that's the sweet spot that we're finding right now.
Okay, awesome. Uh, a couple
Perfect.
of more to go. So, if you're a
Okay.
member in someone else's community and
Sure.
you're not liking the experience, you feel that it's being mismanaged, and there's
Mm,
something off about it. What do you suggest to the member? Do they take that up with the operator? Do they leave the
yeah.
community? It's
Yeah.
clearly something that they want to be part of.
Yeah. So if you're a member and you find yourself in a space where you're not quite seeing the value behind it, it's kind of like what it sounds like. You're not liking how things are working. Take liberty to let the community owner or someone who is helping operate that space, let them know, right? Because it's very important to provide that feedback to help shape the space. There could be actually, if you feel as a member that there's things that are missing, you could be the voice to amplify something in there that could not only help you, but help a lot more people, right? You may not be the only person that feels like a certain type of program or a certain type of content or, value is missing in the space. So I encourage you to speak up and reach out to that person who's helping facilitate the space and let them know, because it could be the turn of a lot, right? That one conversation could turn into a lot more conversations that turn into a lot more value ultimately within the community. So I really encourage people to show up, and let people know who's running the space. Hey, this could be better. And if it's a healthy community, they'll take that on and say, hey, let's start implementing it. Let us know your ideas and let's see how we could, fit that in.
Awesome. Okay, and this is the last one, DJ Will.
Sure.
Uh,
Here we
if
go.
community, if community had a song today, a theme song,
Oh, man.
uh, who would you want that to be sung by?
Wow, that's a good one. Oh, man, that's a good one. I'll give you I give you what could it be alive or someone
Yeah,
who's
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
anyone?
Yeah.
I would have to say Frank Sinatra. He has just
Oh,
such a well voice that carries so well, and I feel like it could be so beautifully said and carried in his tone and his voice and the notes. So I feel like it would be very cool. I would love to hear
oh,
that.
I would love to hear that now that you said it. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Very awesome. Okay, thank you so much, Will. Thank you for your
Of
time
course.
today. And
Yeah,
it was
awesome.
great speaking with you. And just for the benefit of everyone who's listening, where could anyone who's wanting to get in touch, wanting to get your services, your consulting, where could they find you?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So you can find us, you can go directly to our website, which is liaisoncommunity.com. On there, you can apply to work with us and see exactly where we could fit in and what it is that you're trying to do. You could also find me on LinkedIn quite easily. My name is William Allen, or you could go to Liaison Community Management on LinkedIn as well. You could find us there. And with that said, we also are offering a free audit checklist based off our experience and what it is that we've seen a lot of people struggle with. And we've created this checklist directly for you. So if you go to our website, you'll see at the bottom of our homepage, there's somewhere that you can put your name, your information in, and we will get back to you with that checklist, the audit checklist. And hopefully that's helpful for anyone that's listening. But yeah, other than that, we're super excited. Thanks so much for having me on. This was really fun. I appreciate it. And I look forward to the next one.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Will. See
All
you.
right. Thank you. Have a good one. Bye
Bye.
bye.